Ad Age Remotely. I'm Janine Poggi, Senior Editor here at Ad Age, and today I'm joined by our tech reporter, Garrett Sloan. Hey, Garrett, how are you?
Hi, Janine. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. How you hanging in there?
I'm still in my makeshift studio now, so I'm doing just
What's
as
looking
well
nice?
as Stephen Colbert or Seth Meyers. I think we have as professional operation going now as the late night host. So
There you go. You could be called in when needed.
yeah, we got a new gig.
So, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of attention being paid to how Facebook has been handling the coronavirus, from how it's dealing with misinformation and its support of local journalists to introducing some new tools to help people request help from neighbors. What have you been seeing in terms of Facebook's role amid the pandemic?
Well, I think we've seen them try to be as responsive as possible. It's become, I think, an opportunity for them to sort of try to shine where they've been in the doghouse a lot for the last year or so and or more. And we've seen plenty of issues on Facebook's end as a platform, and now we're going to see how it can react to an actual crisis across the world. It's being called upon from advertisers and brands and users to deal with all the issues it's had for the last year or two that we've seen, from disinformation to problems with the ad platform to product launches that haven't gone so well. And now it's sort of having all those crises at once. And it's been responding, I think, nimbly so far. And we'll get to see more as we report.
And you're speaking with Carolyn Everson about how Facebook has been responding.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to get the vice president of global marketing solutions, and we're going to ask her about all these issues that are coming up, and we'll see straight from her what's happening at Facebook.
Great, let's take a look.
Garrett,
Carolyn,
gosh,
that's
you look
you.
so fancy and
I
good.
did it.
What the heck is going on with you?
You gave me an excuse to shave and put on a tie today. Thank you.
Dear Lord, you don't dress up when you see me in person.
I sometimes had the suit.
Not like this.
The
You're like
tie.
looking dapper and like all put together.
This is for the history books.
Wow. All right. I'm very impressed.
Carolyn Everson, Facebook's Vice President of Global Marketing Solutions, here with me, Garrett Sloan, the tech reporter at Ad Age. So again, thanks for talking with me and making this happen.
Thanks for having me, Garrett.
So to start on that front, I mean, you have a lot of we do have effects across the country, and it's affecting Facebook as an office, just how you work. I mean, we could talk personally about that. How is what is the work life like? You're working remotely like all of us.
Well, we have over 45,000 employees at Facebook, and many of us worked one day a week, one day every month from home, and so we kind of had some preparation, but nothing prepares you, I think, for that flip of the switch to make the decision. And we made an early decision when you look at other companies to have a global work from home. We started with a suggested work from home if you want to and you're uncomfortable, to a recommended work from home, to a mandatory work from home. And we started with, obviously our offices in Asia, and then, within the last few weeks had to make it, of course, across the globe. In many ways, our products are well suited for this. We utilize Workplace at Facebook, and that has a lot of virtual, teleworking capabilities. But just like every other company, we're using Blue Jeans, we're using Zoom, we're using Workplace video, we're using Messenger video, WhatsApp. I mean, we're using a lot of technology to really stay connected. And one of the biggest things that I have been messaging our teams around the world is that you can't cut and paste your work life into your home life. So if I look at my typical work day, it was 15 hours of back-to-back meetings, and I'd be jumping in a taxi to go to a meeting or running to the airport. It was like, but my home wasn't following me around. It was like, that was work. And in between meetings, I would try to check in with my family. You can't take that schedule and just cut and paste it into home, right? Now I have 8 adults living in my house right now, including my mother. I have 6 dogs. Nobody can go to the gym, so I want to work out in the mornings. I've really encouraged our teams you have to make work for you, however that's defined. It's different for someone who is by themselves and isolated and living on their own. It's really hard for people that are living with young children with no childcare at home, both spouses working, or they're a single parent, mother or father. And so we're really being sensitive to having people personalize work for however their life is needs to be right now.
You have
And
the
that
you have the Facebook Office tools that you're talking about. I've seen you've also is that something that you've always used very closely? Are there any like little parts of that that you've sort of discovered being at home that you're like, oh, there's a new technology that I didn't even know we had?
Well, it's interesting. We have portal, right? We have the physical portal here. I'll show you mine right here.
I
We're
was going
not
to ask you
on the
about
portal right now. It's actually flipping through pictures as we speak. But portal has been a really effective way for people to connect because the camera follows you around. Workplace, Facebook Workplace is now integrated into portal. So people are using that a lot more, but we're also getting very creative in terms of the things that we're doing. Everyone's doing these now. We're doing virtual happy hours with our teams, with our clients. We're doing virtual coffees. I'm doing virtual fueling connections with about 30 employees at a time where we go onto a Zoom and we do totally unscripted. They see me raw, transparent, vulnerable. What's on my mind? I answer questions. The APAC team, when the Japan Olympics were announced that they were going to be moved to 2021, they launched a virtual Olympics. Teams are doing
what's the
virtual.
virtual Olympics?
Different offices are competing for challenges, and so individuals are doing like physical challenges in their home, and they're challenging other offices. So that's a virtual Olympics.
Have you won any?
No, they haven't. So I'm very upset they have not asked me to participate in the virtual Olympics. They typically put me in the talent show, and I usually get to dance and sing with Team Korea. But they have not asked me to participate in the virtual Olympics.
You'll have to get me video of that, please.
That video has not gone public, and there's a reason for that.
I'm sure. Sure,
um,
it's great. The portal, I was going to ask you about the portal. I mentioned that there seems like there are these products Facebook has. Portal, Oculus, they're sort of just niche hardware products that now all of a sudden may have some new relevance. We're working remotely, so people may say, and forgive, I mean, there's always privacy concerns with any platform. Facebook's had its privacy concerns, and I think it had some impact on sales of Portal, and I think some of that may be mitigated, or what people want to do from home and are willing to do from home may spur people to go buy a Portal device to communicate, or buy an Oculus to all of a sudden go in VR where they may never have before. Are you seeing
yes,
that? Are
we
you
are.
doing it?
We're seeing a huge uptick. I mean, again, I'm gonna pass this along. So this just happens to be what's on one of my main pages in my portal, but there's workplace. So that would take me right into like the Facebook work functionality, which really looks like Facebook for consumers, but for business. So we have teams, have groups, and we can do video chats and all of that. Story time, I don't know if you've played with this, but this, I have two grandchildren, which many people don't know, but I have two sons, and one of them has two children. We do story time at night. So I read them a story on Portal.
You do
Um, it,
they got little animal faces you could put on yourself.
you could,
You
it's
do that?
super fun. I do. Yes. And you can play games with each other.
You think people are going, are you seeing that? Like, is Oculus activity, people in the VR world signing on for the first time? Is that something you're already seeing in meetings when you sit down with the leadership team?
So we've had some virtual meetings via Oculus at Facebook, and it's super early days, but you can see the promise of the technology, right? There's still a lot that needs to be worked out,
What
and
is
those
that? Where you're like a little character in there, like
you
a little
become, yes,
animated.
and you can look as real or as not as real as you want to, but you can come up with how you want to be profiled in the virtual world. And there are, I mean, putting outside the global coronavirus crisis, There are companies that are using Oculus now in virtual ways. Walmart is training their employees using Oculus. We have airlines training mechanics. Physicians were using it to train for surgeries. And so it has already been used in a workplace environment. Of course, in a perfect world, the technology would be advanced enough where we would all have some type of Oculus goggles or something to wear where we could go virtually in meetings. And it's not quite there yet, right? It hasn't scaled, but you can see the promise of it. And if anything, the way I describe what has happened with this virus in the work context, it is the fastest experiment on whether you can have a distributed workforce that the world has ever seen, right? Companies are being forced to, if some of our agencies around the world, their teams don't even have laptops. So imagine when they flip the switch and say you've got to work from home and people don't even have the right equipment. So it's really forcing companies of all sizes to think through, what do we need to have in order to enable our teams to be as productive as possible?
I was going to ask you, because you head up the client council, which is a group of top brands. You've mentioned them. You've spoken about that council at Cannes. It's a group that's known in the industry. What's your what are your talks like? What are companies coming to you with, asking Facebook to help with?
Yes, so we did a virtual client council call last week to go through our remote work best practices, like what tools are we using at Facebook, what are the resources we're providing employees. So we've been, very clear at Facebook that we've got to protect the safety and security of our teams. Like, that is of utmost importance, and we have to be in complete service to our clients. So whatever they may need. Right now, certain clients their business is going really, really well because people are using their services more in an in-home setting. Other clients have completely shut down and are not spending anything on marketing, and they're more in a crisis management mode, and we're working to support them as best as we possibly can. So what we're hearing is different depending on what vertical or what category the client is coming from. But what we tried to do is just open source. Here are all the best practices that we're seeing, the lessons that we're learning. Not that we have, by any stretch, the best information and the best ideas, but we wanted to share everything that we had. And that session was really a sharing session where people asked lots of questions about, how are you onboarding new employees in this environment, right? Just, questions that everyone has, and we thought we would be able to share. Our next client council meeting in May is going to be virtual, over the
And
course of 2
virtual
days.
is online. That's not
Yes,
virtual reality.
it will
That's
not
not
be
the
virtual
Oculus.
reality. Yeah, we're not quite ready for that, but it'll be online, just like we're doing.
I mean, you work at a company that is, like I said, 45,000 employees, 2 billion global users, just this massive operation. And in Silicon Valley, with this tech expertise, you're being leaned on from the companies and governments, all sorts of things. Is there anything people don't realize you're being tasked to kind of problem solve?
Well, very early on, the WHO and the CDC wanted to work with us to help get accurate information out to people. And that was literally back just as the crisis was starting towards, in January. And we made the decision as a company that the WHO and the CDC, as well as local health ministers around the world, would have unlimited inventory to get their message out, because getting accurate information out is absolutely critical. So we were approached very early on by those organizations. We've been approached by governments around the world to find different ways to communicate with their citizens. So Singapore government is using WhatsApp every day to communicate with their citizens, what the status of the virus is, how they're tracking it, information. And that's now happening in several dozen countries. So we're being asked for government support. We're certainly trying to support the business community. We announced a $100 million SMB grant program that will aid about 30,000 SMBs in cities around the world where we have a strong presence. So we announced that. We announced $100 million to help the news organizations particularly around local news reporting during this crisis. So we have a lot of asks, right? You think of constituents, we got to take care of our employees. We have to take care of the business community as best as we possibly can. We've got to support governments and NGOs during
Is
this
there
time.
is there anything you've been asked that you wouldn't be willing to do because of maybe tracking factors or things like that? Have you been? Are there any things that you've discussed internally? You might be able to do all sorts of things that could track where a virus is, who's getting close to it, all sorts of things like that. Have you? Those might be sensitive conversations, so I don't know how much you could share. But is there anything like that you've discussed
There,
internally?
there are certainly, as you can appreciate, I'm sure, there are ideas every day, all day long, from every partner that we talk to about things that they think the platform can do. And we have been very sensitive to ensure that anything that we do is in line with our mission, in line with, of course, our privacy policies and how we want to show up for consumers. And so what we've tried to do is say, okay, what is our role in this? Our role is really about connecting people. Like, our technology is amazing at connecting people, be it on messaging or Facebook or Instagram. And so we thought about first, like, being a resource center. So we have the COVID Information Resource Center now for consumers to give them accurate information. We've now taken that. Today we are announcing that it's turning into like a help center. So think about it as a marketplace for people to help each other. So if I was an older person and couldn't get out, and you lived in my neighborhood and you want to help me and you want to go shopping for groceries, there's going to be a way for people to say, here are my needs, and other people to say, here is how I want to help.
And has
That's
that
a
launched?
that's launching today.
Okay. What's
Yes,
it
so
called?
that's like a community center as part of the Information Resource Center. So that's where we're trying to say, what is the role Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp play in people's lives, and how can we take advantage of that to really support getting accurate information and bringing people closer together. Instagram has launched major efforts with influencers and celebrities to help really drill the message that we need people to stay at home, particularly the younger audience, when there was a lot of concern that the younger audience may not be listening to the directive to stay at home. So each platform is really finding very unique roles to support people.
I would love to talk more about the influencer community, but we're going to run out of time shortly, and I'm going to. You probably have to go quickly too, so I can't take up your whole afternoon. But on the information front, there's also the disinformation. I think you took down even the president of Brazil's post. Yeah, I mean, these are decisions you're having to make. The president of Brazil had said something that was not accurate about coronavirus, so it gets taken down. What are you seeing in terms of the disinformation and how you're making those calls?
Well, when there isn't any information on our platform that could cause harm to people, the decision is quite simple, right? It needs to come down. And so if there is information that misleads people on either a preventative cure, or not giving them accurate information about what physical distancing means, we've got to take action on that. And as you can imagine, right now, this is the hot spot of content moderation. So we've put a ton of resources into trying to ensure that we have accurate information getting out to people. And that's super important to, obviously, people's safety and lives.
Do you know if you've taken any political figures or public figures in the U.S. for saying, because we have plenty of disinformation coming out here? I don't know if you've detected a lot of it that you've had to take action on here.
I can't say whether I know if there's been a situation where we've pulled something down, but if something was put up that would be harmful to people, that would be put in the same criteria as when we evaluate anything else, no matter who said it.
All righty. I think on that note, we can let you get back to the office, the home
Okay.
office.
The home
And
office. Yes. Thank you. Dealing with my 6 dogs and a lot of people in the house, but I do have a virtual happy hour coming up. So that's a good thing.
oh well, send me the link. I'll join you. I'll be having one myself, I'm sure. And we'll do this again. I hope
Yes.
soon, because it's always good to talk and get the
Yep.
what you're
Happy to do
what you're
it.
telling me. So
Happy to do it. Thanks so much for the time.